Good morning. Thank you for joining us for our 151st biweekly webinar. And happy fourth day of summer as well. I know it certainly probably doesn't look or feel like that outside, but just one day today. So we're going to begin as we always do with gratitude. Myself, I am grateful for a growing team. It's really cool to see everyone support each other. Everyone has a desire to continue to improve and get better and just be the best version of themselves. I find it quite inspirational to work at a place like this. So feeling extremely grateful for that this morning. Ryan, how about yourself?
Thank you, Michael. Yeah, I'm very grateful that it's camping season, and that I'm not camping in the rain that's currently coming down outside right now. But it is something that I really love to do with my family, and my two little girls are really getting into it now. So we were out this weekend in Peninsula State Park, and it was a great time. And looking forward to more of those trips this summer.
Wonderful. Love that. Thank you, Ryan. Ken, how about yourself?
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. Good to be on the podcast today with everybody. And yeah, I would say the World Cup. We have two soccer players in the family, and I think there's just a lot of excitement around the community with World Cup. It's great to see the USA team doing really well and really showing up and playing. And it's also fun to see the other countries compete as well. And I think there's been a couple surprises in the World Cup right now. So it's always fun to watch it. It's always the excitement around it. And I thought the NBA had a lot of like flopping and faking going on. For all you soccer fans out there, this is, there's a lot of like ankle holding in times. But anyways, I guess it's all part of theatrics. It's all part of the entertainment. It's all part of selling the foul, if you will. So, but World Cup has been really fun this year. So.
Love it. Yeah, uniquely in North America for the World Cup, of course, between Mexico, Canada, and the United States. I think one thing that I'm starting to realize is Cristiano Ronaldo is, I believe, 40 years old, if not close. And it just seems like he was 20 years old and one of the best players in the world just a few years ago. But thank you, Ken. Zach, how about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. As always, a lot to be grateful for. Grateful for a great morning run this morning in the rain on Lake Michigan. It was just a beautiful morning, and also just extremely grateful for life transitions. So, my wife and I and son have the opportunity to live in Mequon here in the next few months. So, we've been actively looking for a new home and finally found one, and it's a stone's throw away from the office here. So, got my two homes, if you will, close to each other. So, extremely grateful for new life transitions and starting a new adventure as a family.
Thank you, Zach. Congratulations. We're all extremely excited for you, and to see your family grow has just been really special. How about you, Mike?
Yeah, thanks, Michael. So I want to take a little bit of time and express my gratitude to Giannis Antetokounmpo and Bobby Portis. Fortunately, they are now members of the Miami Heat. The Milwaukee Bucks just traded them, and it's been really fun to reflect on how Milwaukee has changed because of specifically Giannis, but of course Bobby as well. Going to games back when it was the Bradley Center and when Giannis was just a rook in his first year, and the Bucks won what 13, 15 games. I could probably confirm that one, or you could better than I can. But it was amazing to watch throughout him not to be the cornerstone that was actually supposed to be, you know, Parker. He was supposed to be the guy, and then all of a sudden Giannis stepped in and really changed the city for the best. And I just want to share one quick story where, when the Bucks won the world championship, I was in the living room with my dad, and we were watching the game on TV. And when everything kind of wrapped up at the very end of it, and it was known that they were going to win, my dad kind of turned to me and told me, he was like, I never thought that I'd ever see this in my life, that the Bucks would win an NBA championship. And it was just so incredible to just have that moment with him and have that share that with me. Just those little pieces of time, those things, the moments of joy, everything like that, just to reflect on everything he did for the city of Milwaukee. And in a way that he left that was much more graceful. And this meant a lot to my dad because he remembers Lou Alcindor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar forcing his way out, going to the Lakers. And I'm not going to act like I understood what happened then because that was well before my time. But Giannis really reinstated his faith because throughout my entire life, he always said that players don't want to be in Milwaukee, players don't want to stay here, players don't want to do that. And Giannis did that. And it I don't know. It's just so much fun to think about what he did. And I know everybody on here enjoyed him so much in the times and everything like that. So yeah, I just wanted to express gratitude for what he did for the city and for my life. It's strange to think of an athlete just having that kind of effect. But anyways, great for Giannis.
Thank you, Mike, and well said. I believe Giannis was drafted around 2013, and just looking at even Fiserv Forum, the Deer District, all that's been built up around that area has just been fantastic. And I think a lot of the credit has to be given to Giannis for the success of the team and the success of the Bucks. So thank you, Mike. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to kick it off. Mike, let's go over to Mike's Minute. What do you have for us today, Mike?
Yeah. Not to spoil what you got going on, Michael, because you're going to be sharing some wonderful insights. But I wanted to talk a little bit. Obviously, all of you know us as Gentian Financial. All of you see the statements, you see your online access, and you see Raymond James kind of back behind everything. And I want to just shine a little light on our partner, Raymond James, and what they do for us as a firm. And it truly, Raymond James is one of the top financial firms in the entire country. They provide us the ability to and the stability to make sure that we have cybersecurity all taken care of. We have new technology. Raymond James invested $1 billion towards technology and artificial intelligence for us to best serve our clients and to be able to position ourselves above the competition in ways that others can't. I have many friends in the industry, and they're always amazed at some of the capabilities that we have that others don't. And a lot of this goes unseen. It's behind the scenes. It's our ability to utilize some of Raymond James' system. Their library of knowledge is available to us in a way that is truly special to be able to best service things, help lead times, get everything taken care of and tidy, and make sure that everything continues on as it should so that we can be more human. That's always this big thing that Chris talks about often, and it's really rubbed off on me. At the end of the day, the goal of technology truly is to allow us to have the flexibility to be more human with those around us. And Raymond James just does an exceptional job of being there for that in different ways. And that's not even going down the path of how much I enjoy talking to our equity analysts, learning a little bit about some of the companies that they're looking at and how they're excited about what they could do going forward. We have one of the best research teams in the entire country. So it's fascinating to see that. I'm not talking about, our alternatives group who vet some of the best extra styles of investments that we can add to the portfolio as a little bit of spice here and there as it makes sense for those who we feel are a good fit for. And of course, just the backing of continuing to help us best track our funds and our highly recommended list. It's always fun. We made a change at the end of last year, and Ryan and I reflect very positively on this one, where we made a change out of an emerging markets fund that really manager turnover. They weren't doing good for a couple of years leading into it. And for a couple of months, we worked very hard. We spoke with a lot of representatives from different firms. We spoke with a lot of portfolio managers, and we eventually changed our core recommendation from what was Invesco to a company called Lazard. And we made that change within our clients' portfolios, our highly recommended spaces. Most on the call would have experienced this. If not, there is a reason for that. But despite all of that, once we made that change, suddenly we then saw it on Raymond James's highly recommended list as the next fund. So it is wonderful because we think so highly of them to see us actually leading, making a change, and then having their backing in a way that we didn't even expect. And we've been fortunate for that to work very well for us. So if you ever have any questions about what you individually hold in your portfolio or you individually have because of your strategy that we put into place, please let us know. I'm happy to break that stuff down. It's where I live. It's what I do. And so, if you ever have any questions about what we're talking about, just bring me in. So, all right. Thank you, Michael. Back to you.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate you sharing a little bit about the investments and Raymond James, who so of course our broker dealer and back office. Just all good information to know. Of course, we'll get to the statement piece where you can see a lot of that investment information. But before we do that, I want to hand it over to Zach. We'll go over to Zach's facts. Zach, what do you have for us today?
Yeah, thank you, Michael. As normal, I'll give an update on where markets are at for the year and then a few just going through one of our timeless pieces and how important it is, especially at times like these. But the Dow Jones up about 7.5%. All of these indices are almost exactly the same as they were 2 weeks ago. So a lot happened in the last 2 weeks as far as ceasefires, things like that. Massive, biggest IPO that has ever gone public in that sense, but really relatively flat over the last 2 weeks. You got the S&P 500, 7.6. You got the NASDAQ just over 10% positive on the year. That's about over 50% weighted towards technology. So when that one, if you're watching on your phone or see it on the news, when that one fluctuates more, it's usually because technology is down or up more that day. The Russell 2000, that's those smaller size companies, is around 20% positive on the year. International 6.8 and emerging markets 23% positive on the year. So it just highlights the extreme importance of asset allocation, owning the different asset classes. You don't know which one's going to outperform when. Emerging markets, as an example, has lagged for several years. It was not a prediction that that was going to be the best performing asset class this year. So the best thing about having a strategy and a portfolio is being able to own them all because there are no future facts. And then the most important thing is rebalancing the accounts as well. That every single year, that's a timeless process of ours. If you've been with us for a while, you know that. If you've been with us briefly in the short term here, that is a part of our annual process is to rebalance. And the main purpose is to reduce risk, right? Because if something does extremely well, you're going to be overweight in that category. And then when that has a correction in that space, we're going to be overexposed to it. So rebalancing reduces risk, but because you're selling high and buying low every time you rebalance, it actually over full market cycles increases return as well. So just amazing arrow in our quiver for the investment side of things. And with that, Michael, I'll pass that back to you.
Thank you, Zach. Yeah, great insights on almost halfway through the year at this point in time. I think if we solely focused on financial news headlines and we looked at and got all of our information about what our investments were doing there, I think a lot of people would be surprised to see how well the portfolio is doing. But that's nothing new that we see with those financial news sources. We know that negativity sells. So keeping that focus, staying the course, staying disciplined is something that we're going to continue to preach. We built a great plan, and that plan is designed to work through the good times, through the okay times, and through the tougher times. And we're going to continue to guide all of you on this call down that path to success. So let's pass it over to Ken's corner. Ken, what do you have for us today?
Thank you, Michael. Appreciate it. And I know you're going to be talking about statements here. And so what doesn't show up on your statement, because you can't see it anyways right now on the podcast, is when you look at the planning that we do and that you do, and when you look at your overall scenario, sometimes the planning doesn't show up on the statements. When we do for example, a Roth conversion, that's moving money from a traditional IRA to your Roth IRA. We do that sometimes intentionally. And when it's in the Roth IRA bucket, even the growth on everything is tax free. And so, where does that show up? Where that shows up is your overall plan, your overall, financial security that you have with your plan. It shows up on a tax-free, maybe family trip that you take. And, it shows up in many different ways, just not necessarily on the statement. So I know Michael's going to go through the actual statement today, which is great to see. I just want to bring that to your attention. And sometimes it ends up in your pocket, not necessarily as a percentage rate of return on your overall statement. A piece I want to touch on today as well from a planning standpoint is today's Kids Finance Camp here at Gentian. We have a great group of kiddos that are going to be here, and I know Chris is going to go through some of the different strategies, the different buckets approach to finance. It's geared for younger kids, which is great to see these youngsters learning about gratitude and savings. And one of the things that we hear from time to time is that, let's say, for example, one of your kids or grandkids is working, say, at Culver's, or maybe has a lawn mowing job that is legit and has a 1099 associated with it. There's a savings aspect to it, like a bank account. But then also we get questions about, hey, what would happen if we wanted to put away $1,000 or so, because they made, some money over the summer or working, a part-time job? Can we open up like a Roth IRA? Can we open up a retirement account for them to put some money away? And the answer is yes. There's different ways to do it. Depends on how old the child is or the grandchild is. There's things called Roth IRAs. There's custodial Roth IRAs if they're under age 18. There's always these good things that we see here. And really, if there's anything being reported from like a W-2 standpoint, if there's actually a tax form that gets generated from their wages that they make, or a 1099 because they have their own business or lawn mowing business, and they're towing their lawnmower down the road and mowing the lawns, right? All these fun things that happen early on. The max we can put into Roth IRAs is $7,500 for 2026. So it doesn't mean you have to do that much, but let's say, for example, the child earns $2,500. Well, because it shows up on the W-2 as they made $2,500, that is the max amount that you could put into a Roth IRA for that year, for example. So it doesn't have to be the child's money actually going in. Anybody can contribute the amount, just can't exceed what's being reported on the W-2 or the 1099 or the $7,500 max. So it's just a great way to look at the different buckets that could be used for a child's savings career. Start them early and often, as they say. Time is their friend, as you guys all know that have been investing for a long time. And the more we can get into the investments earlier, the better off they're going to be. So back to you, Michael.
Thank you, Ken. And very well said. Time and education, I think, are the two most important things as we look to guide and help younger investors. I know a lot of parents and grandparents are really eager to pass that gift along and are even willing to financially help. So if that's something that's of interest to you, please reach out to us. We're more than happy to have that discussion with you. So thank you, Ken. I'm going to transition now to actually what the webinar was titled as today, which is, of course, how to read financial statements. So I'm going to actually share a mock statement for a Raymond James account, just to give you an idea, of course, as to what it looks like, what you're looking at when you're looking at the statement, and potentially some things to pay attention to. And I'll also touch on a few of more of the frequently asked questions that we get from clients when reviewing their statements. So I think the most important place, and I guess where I would like to start, of course, is what statement period this is for. So one we're looking at, of course, is for the month of May. And the top right corner of your statement is going to give you that information. But as we transition down, you'll see there's two columns. And one, of course, is this statement and year to date. So when we're looking at this statement, that, of course, is just for the month of May. And I'm looking over at year to date, that's going to be so far what's happened in 2026. So it's going to show you a couple of different numbers there. But the next section to pay attention to is this important messages section. So a few bits of information that'll be important here. And look for these bold headers. This is almost where on the statement things start to transition or change into a different item of information that you're looking at. So when we're looking at the important messages piece, it's going to show you so far what your distributions were for 2026 and who your primary and contingent beneficiaries are. This is something that we want to review with you during our meetings to make sure that nothing has changed. We want to make sure that these are up to date. And with a simple form, we can actually update these or change these at any time. So something just to keep an eye on. The next bold header we'll pay attention to is, of course, your portfolio. Now, I've taken a lot of information off this statement. So as we're working through, there'll be some investment information missing, but what we're actually trying to pay attention to is still on there. So I'll highlight that piece. But your portfolio is going to be broken down into a few sections, cash and cash alternatives being the first one. But when we look at these columns of what information it's reporting, it's actually pretty simple, though it may be look a little bit more complex. So this quantity section is going to be the number of shares of that particular investment that you own. The price is going to be the price per share, and the value is the total value of that investment that you hold. You'll see the gain or loss is the next column for us. An important thing to point out is anything in parentheses is going to be a negative or a subtraction as we look at your statement. And then the final column being the estimated annual income that that particular investment provides. So as we're working through these different funds that we own, you'll see the actual fund information is missing, but the rest of the data is still there. So as we're working through, of course, the number of shares, price per share, the total value of that individual position, whether we have a gain or a loss. And if that portfolio pays dividends, interest, anything like that, there's going to be an estimated number of what income that investment provides. So you'll see some subtotal columns at the bottom of each of these individual sections for those investments that total everything up. But as we continue to work through the statement, you'll get down towards the portfolio total column where that adds everything up as you look at your portfolio. So nothing too complex there, but again, paying attention to the total values and the subtotals down at the bottom, because typically those pages are going to break somewhere in the middle of one of those sections. So just continuing to follow down that line. It's generally a good idea just to make sure you're seeing the accurate information. Next section to point out is your activity. So your activity is going to show anything that happened with your investments. And it's going to start with income. So any dividends, interest that were paid. The next section under your activity is going to be any withdrawals that came from the account. So anything that you may be taking income from your investments or you took a distribution out. And then the final section in your activity is going to be purchase, sales, and redemptions. In other words, any of your investments that were bought, sold, or changed during that statement period. So just wanted to walk through that statement for us here today. Get a handful of questions from time to time, but generally just getting an idea and getting familiar with those statements can help you just have a better understanding of what's transpired, whether it's over the last year, the last month, or what have you. So we'll pause on the statement piece for now. I want to bring Ryan on. He's going to give us an idea of what's coming up from an event perspective here at Gentian. Ryan, please tell us what's going on.
Yeah, thanks, Michael. Excuse me. We do have event season coming up here for Gentian. So an exciting time of year. Today, as has been mentioned, we have our kids finance camp. I've got my little buddy here sitting next to me, anxiously awaiting that to start here shortly. Coming up in July, we have our July birthday club. That will be on Wednesday, July the 8th. So please RSVP through the happenings email that you received earlier this week if you have a July birthday, and come join us for lunch. Coming up then shortly after, on Sunday, July 12th, we are having our first Gentian Bluegrass on the Farm event. That again, Sunday, July 12th, is limited capacity. So again, check that happenings email and RSVP if you would like to join us. It will be going from 12:30 to 6 p.m. that Sunday. Monday, July 27th, we then have our next annual Rise and Shine event, and that will be featuring performance from Jamie McDonald and taking place at Fox Yard Station. Again, that one is Monday, July 27th in the evening from 4:30 to 8:30, and does also have limited capacity. So if you'd like to join us, please make sure you RSVP ahead for that event as well. Wednesday, September 16th, then, is the next big day. Hi, Sydney. Wednesday, September 16th is our next big event day, Shred and Eat Outside Day. So any of those old statements or other important documents that you'd like to have shredded to keep your information safe, bring those by to the Doty Family Farm between 11 and 2 p.m. and we will have some food available there as well. Please do RSVP for that event as well so we can anticipate a head count for that event. And I also always like to note when I get the opportunity to do happenings here to remind everybody on that happenings email that there's always some great information from Michelle Norris. She's our nutritionist that we keep on retainer for your use. She will have a question of the week to answer some frequently asked questions. She'll have a recipe of the week included in there so you can try some healthy new recipes. My family's enjoyed several of these recipes. They're really, really great, good for snacks sometimes as well. She's got some great ideas in there. So make sure you're checking that out towards the bottom of that email in the happenings weekly as well. Thanks, Michael.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate you sharing a lot of the fun events we have upcoming. I know we have a lot of dates, a lot of things now officially set. So please head over to our website, RSVP to those events. They are filling up fast. In closing today, I want to share a little bit of something I noticed over the past few weeks. But many of you sports fans potentially know that the US Open was over this past weekend. It's one of four what they call major golf tournaments. Has a little bit of higher honors to win those higher payouts for those professionals. So a lot of golfers really look forward to those big time events. So there was an individual named Harry Higgs, who is a 32-year-old pro. He offered some perspective on his journey this past weekend that in a 15-minute media session on Saturday evening. But a little bit of background on him. He actually became pro in 2019, played Division I golf at SMU in Dallas, and just got off to a fantastic start. But one thing that's unique about professional golf is you need to play at a certain level and hold yourself to a certain standard to remain pro. And they also have something called the Korn Ferry Tour, which I would consider more like the high minor leagues or AAA in baseball. So what really happened after that hot start is over the next few years, his golf game and his mentality about golf actually went in the wrong direction. And I know a lot of people who golf can understand that piece, but over the last few years, he's essentially been playing in the minor leagues of professional golf, trying to rejoin that professional status to be eligible for a lot of these events. So specific to the US Open, only 156 players in the United States play in this tournament. It's technically the champion or the best golfer of the United States, but over 100 of those spots are filled by people who automatically are able to qualify. So this year, Harry Higgs actually had to go through a series of regional and local tournaments to win and play well enough to qualify for this. And it's a pretty grueling process for anyone that wants to go through that. And he actually got to the last step, the last tournament where he needed to win essentially to qualify. On that last day, he got off to a really, really bad start. And he was just about halfway through. He pulled his phone out of his golf bag, booked a flight home from North Carolina, and actually considered quitting golf for good. And during this media session, he started to share a little bit about what had actually transpired over the last few months for him. And he said, I'm going to walk off after the ninth hole. I'm just going to go home. I don't even know if I'm going to go play on the Korn Ferry Tour. And I don't know if I'm even going to play golf anymore. At some point that day, a switch had flipped for him, and he went on to play well enough to actually qualify for the US Open. And he was the 156th of the 156 player to make it in. During this media session, a few of his quotes that I pulled, he said, when I start playing bad, I start to not be so nice to myself. When things are going really well, I feel like a rock star and I can do anything out there. He said, you need to believe in yourself no matter what happens. Then he actually started to compare himself to some of the best players in the world, some of these guys who've consistently been at the top. He said, I'm coming to the realization that all these guys who do this consistently and win, I think they simply make the choice to just do that all the time. The results may be a little bit easier to deal with for them, but these guys simply wake up, do the work, and choose to believe they're the best. The biggest conclusion I drew from watching this interview is that most of us are actually capable of way more than we think. And it starts with a simple choice, your mindset. So thank you for joining us today from our galactic headquarters here in Mequon, Wisconsin. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll see you soon.